Hello, Stampers. Welcome. I am Pat Fairless from Fairless Stampin Flair, and I have a fun fold today. I don't think it's new, but I just recently discovered it. You know, I'm sure you guys do the same thing. You probably look around on internet for ideas, Pinterest. If you're a demonstrator for Stampin' Up, demonstrator planning place, lots of great ideas. And just Google in general, right? We can find lots of ideas. And I stumbled across a card. They called it a Stadium Wave Fun Fold card. I had never seen it before. So I started searching for videos to figure out how to do it because it looked very cool. But it wasn't obvious by just looking at the card how to do it. And I found lots of videos. Most of them were all from 2003, 2004. So obviously I am behind the times, but we're gonna make one today because I thought it was really cool, really cool. So let me flip my camera down and we will get started. So this is a Stadium Fun Fold. Now, I used a belly band to hold it closed. You don't really have to. This particular version does stay closed on its own, but where the fun begins is when you open this up. So if you were looking at it straight on, like it was, and you opened it, this is what you see. This is the wave, the Stadium Wave. Who's done a wave? I think they're fun to do. Some events have them every once in a while, right? So we're going to make this. I'm going to make basically 99% the exact same card. I ran out of the designer series paper that I used for my waves. I am going to refer to these as waves, and that's the main thing that you're going to be interested in, how to put together. Everything else you can probably figure out for yourself, but that was the part I struggled with. And like I said, I found several videos. I kind of followed the one most closely that Dawn Griffith did. I think it's Stamping Thoughts with Dawn's Stamping Thoughts, something like that, is where I found it. And I think it was from 2023. So she used a total of 6 waves. So when we look at this, this is how we count: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 waves. Some of the cards had 7, some had 8. It just means you're going to have more of these and you're going to overlap them a little bit more. But I kind of liked this amount. It seemed nice for what I wanted to do with these balloons. And her video was very, very good. I could understand it very clearly. So hopefully mine will make sense as well. So let's go ahead. The first thing she did differently than anybody else is she created some lift here on her card base. And so I'm going to do that too, because I liked that, because then it did want to lay flat because it made room for all of this stuff, you know, the bulk on the inside. So we're going to do that. And let me show you how that part of it's done. So we start out with a 11 by 4 1/4 piece of cardstock. And normally we would score this at 5 1/2, right? Pull this down a little bit so you can see where I'm going. And I'm going to have to, no, I'm good. Now, tomorrow, this card will be posted on my Fairless Stampin Flair blog at fairlessstampinflair.com. And this tutorial will be available to download. It's got all the supplies that are required, your cutting instructions for all the various pieces, and then some step-by-step directions. Obviously, you can use whatever products you have. But on the last page are these diagrams. So this is the card base, and that's what I'm going to do right now. We're going to score it at 5 3/8 and 5 5/8. So an eighth is the there's 2 little lines, and then the first biggest one It's halfway between 1/4 and 5, right? So you want to go over 3 of those, and we're going to not cut. We're going to score that. So at 5 3/8, and then we're going to move it to 5 5/8. So I'm just going to move 2/8 over. So that's the one biggest line past half. For those of you who don't do 8s very often. And that's how simple that is. Now, black was probably not a good choice, but let's just go ahead and we will fold this and give it a burnish. And we'll do the same way on the other side. I kind of like to lay it over in flat and make sure if you look here, like this is not exactly straight, so I like to push it straight and then burnish. I don't know why cardstock does this to me, but sometimes it just wants to go cattywampus. So there we go. Our card base now has that little extra piece, and we're going to set that aside. Actually, let's go ahead and decorate it first. I'm just going to put the designer series paper pieces on it, and I am using, oh, what is it called? I've got it on the tutorial here. I should look. I wish I could remember the names of everything. Beautiful Ordinary Life. We used this a couple weeks ago, and I think I showed you the various patterns. So I'm not going to do that today because we got a lot of stuff to do. So these pieces that I'm going to put on here now are not your standard 4 by 5 1/4, which is what we usually do. It's 4 by 5 1/8. So pay attention to that, and then we will just go ahead because we didn't score it at 5 1/2. We scored it at 3/8, right? So we have to cut our decorative pieces a little bit different. So let's just go ahead and put these on. And I'm using, I love this particular pattern from Everyday Ordinary Life, or whatever it's called again. I already forgot. Beautiful Ordinary Life. Kind of looks like a sky, and I thought it made a nice background for a bouquet of blooms. And then on the inside, I am using this Pool Party polka dots. And you wouldn't have to do this. You could put your waves directly on your cardstock, card base. It's not necessary to have the DSP. I just think it adds a little bit of color and life. So I decided to do that. So we're just going to get these on here and get them out of the way. You could use embossed layers on here, just a piece of basic white cardstock, and maybe emboss it with a pretty embossing folder. That would look nice too. So there's our card base. Now, the part that looks complicated, we're going to do that next, and that is these waves. And believe it or not, they are not as difficult as they looked. But we're going to cut, when you determine your size of paper, since I have 6 waves, you're going to be 6 inches by 10. If you wanted to have 7 waves, you would make it 7 by 10, or 8 waves, make it 8 by 10. Because we're just going to do all our scoring first, and then we'll go back and cut 1-inch pieces. So if that helps explain why we're doing it the way we're doing it. So we are going to score. I'm going to put my 10-inch piece at the top. Open this up. So the 10-inch piece is at the top. If I can fit it that way on my tutorials, I try to lay it in the direction you'd put it in your cutter, but sometimes you have to score in both directions. So always look at the dimensions. So we are going to score at 4, 8, 8 3/4, and 9 1/2. So I'm going to put this in at 4. Now remember, we are scoring designer series paper here, so don't put as much pressure as you would with cardstock, or you can cut your designer series paper. You can obviously also use the Simply Scored tool, which I kind of prefer, but it doesn't fit here as well. So now I'm at 8. Now I'm going to go to 8 3/4, and then 9 1/2. My camera's right in my way. Okay. Now I'm going to turn this 90 degrees, and with the 6-inch section at the top, we're going to cut this into 1-inch strips. Move that over just a tad. Double check I'm on 1. Since I moved it, maybe it could have moved. And we will end up with 6 of these strips, so we can make 6 waves. Makes sense, right? That logic follows, I think. If you want to do more waves, just like I said, however many waves you want. If you want 7 waves, 8 waves, just make this particular piece of paper that much wider by 1 more inch. If you want 7, make it 7. You don't have to use designer series paper. Many of the videos I saw used cardstock, and I was thinking I like the idea of designer series paper because it's not as thick and bulky. And sure enough, that was what Dawn did for that very same reason. So I think that made sense to her, made sense to me. Now we've got our 4, and at the 4, we're going to fold this with whichever side you want outward or showing. Make that a mountain fold. And then at the 8-inch, we're going to make another mountain. And again, I like to make sure these are lined up before I press it down too much. Now at this end, we're going to do it backwards, okay? And again, and then we're going to go back once more, and we've got our little tab. And you can use your bone folder to make good creases. Honestly, it's not super important because designer series paper actually push your finger on it and you've got a pretty good crease. Now we're going to fold it back. And when we're done, see, I did that wrong. So let me show you. This was the 8 here. This was the 4. Here's the 8. So this one should go this way. Now this one's got to go back and then back. What you want to end up with is something that looks kind of like a W down here at the bottom. And then you've got this flap. And I'll show you how we're going to put these together too. So you're going to go over. And I like to check that these are lined up so that they're straight in this direction, because sometimes, like I said, you can see it, sometimes they want to go like this a little bit, right? Maybe we didn't score it perfectly or it moved. So just when you fold it, just hold this straight and line it up, and then back and over. Okay, and we will do that with all 6 of these. Back and forward and press. Once you get these all scored and folded, actually the hardest part of what I thought, because once you do this, then you're just repeating it 6 times. By the time you get to the 6th one, you probably won't bend it the wrong way first or fold it the wrong way first, like I did with the 2nd one. But if you do, as you can see, no big deal, right? Okay, so we've got all of those. Now, our next step is we're going to take this and we got our W here. This is my side that's going to show on the card. And we're going to fold this one down and adhere it to this flap. So we will end up with something that kind of looks like a long skinny heart, okay? And if you end up with something that looks like that, then you know you've done it right. I think I'm gonna have to get some new glue. I'm getting to the bottom. I kind of like the bottom because the bottom doesn't goosh out so much on me. Okay, hold it for just a minute or so. Well, I should say a second or so. And I have to say this particular glue, tube of glue or whatever, bottle of glue, is the strangest one I've had in a while. It's almost empty and it still wants to goosh out. I don't know. A couple days ago, it was driving me nuts. It's like it's got internal pressure and that glue just wants to get out of the bottle. So I think you get the idea. I'll show you one more. You've got your thing folded. You've got a W at the bottom and you've got this down here. You're going to add glue to this little 1/2 inch section. You can use any kind of glue, liquid adhesive. You could use your Stampin' Seal. You might want to use Stampin' Seal Plus just to make sure it's strong. If you're a tear and tape lover, you can do that. So I have a couple extra already made, so we won't make the rest of them here. So I should have 6 waves, and I do. So now we're going to try to start putting these together. And if we look at the card, you will see that towards the center of the card up here, you want this edge, the single fold, and you want the W's down towards the bottom. So I'm going to do it with my W's towards the right because it's easier for me to line these up if they're horizontal. Ultimately, we want to end them up like this with it down, but I can get them straighter if I do it this way. So, whoa, totally knocked over my, sorry about that. How cattywampus am I now? I totally knocked over the camera. Let me fix it. Okay, can we see it? I guess we can see it. That's the first time I've totally knocked it over. I've certainly hit it before. I don't think I've ever knocked it over. It's sitting on a bit of an edge of my protective silicone mat here, so I don't glue and stuck on my quartz. All right. Lost my train of thought. Where's my number 6? Here it is. Okay, so we want these to be in this direction with this towards the bottom on our card. But for my purposes, it's easier for me to assemble it this way. And we're going to want to overlap them. And we're going to overlap them just a, it looks like this line here is pretty much in the middle based on the pattern. We want it to be a little less than half. Okay? So I am going to add some adhesive down here along the bottom edge. And then I'm going to lay this, line this up at the top. And this one at the bottom. And we're just going to hold it for a minute. And I'll pick it up. Can you see about how much I have it overlapped? And it doesn't have to be this precise, but I'm going to say it's about 3/8. If they're not all exactly, it doesn't matter if they vary a little bit. The main thing we want to make sure of is when we put it in here, it fits. If I didn't overlap them enough, I might end up where it's too long and it'll be sticking outside the card. So if you do, this is for 6 waves. If you do 7 waves, you're probably going to want you will have to overlap them further, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so now we're just going to add the next piece. Am I out of glue? I don't think so. And again, I'm going to keep it a little less than half. And we will just keep doing this until I have all of them. Now, what also can be helpful is if you do this on a piece of grid paper, and I'll show you why. Let me grab a piece of grid paper and I'll show you why the grid paper can be helpful. If you have a hard time, if you're someone like me, who often has a hard time getting things straight, if you use a piece of grid paper, and let's use this dark line here, okay? And I line this up. Now the next one I can check with the grid and see it is not quite straight. Okay, this is a little that way, and this one's from this one. And if I go to the next one, this is pretty much on the line and that one's down. So what probably would have been a good idea is if I'd started with my grid paper, but we can make the next one straight. And again, if it's a little off, it is not going to matter. You just don't want to get it too much off and always in the same direction. Because if that happens, it's going to be skinnier at the top than at the bottom. So I am going to line this up here in the middle of this square. And I'm going to check across the bottom to see if it's straight on my grid paper. Now, I have to move it. The good thing about liquid glue on here is you have time to move it because I've got it crooked here. And I'm probably overemphasizing this because it's very forgiving. So that's just kind of my anal problem. It's a personal problem. Now, what's a good idea to do is to double check where you are. You want to make sure you're either equal with this or inside this. And you can see that I have to I don't want this to be out beyond the edge of the outside of the card base. So if we look at this, it's not really straight. But when we open it, I should have held that a little bit longer. Nobody's going to know. It'll still work just fine, right? The bad part with liquid glue on this one is sometimes you get a little liquid glue where it shouldn't be. You know how that glue sneaks over where you don't want it? Well, if that happens, you can end up gluing this shut, and when it opens, you might have to pull it a little bit until the glue is dry. Okay, so now we can put this in the card, and with the W's at the bottom, we want to align our top edge up here with this bottom fold. So it's going to be above the DSP and it's going to be along this first score mark. Okay, so I'm going to put glue on the back of this first one here. And I'm going to lay this in here. And I'm going to pretty much line it up with the DSP, just maybe a smidge, and we'll keep it just below that score mark. You want this to be able to close partway, at least vertically, right? And then hold it here. If you have to, just try to make sure it's straight along this edge. Now, you're not going to glue any of these other ones. We're going to take the last one over here and we're going to put glue on the top. think I am running out. There's still plenty in there. And we're going to close this down. Now, here you want to make sure you close it so your edges are lined up and so that this edge is straight up and down. And we're just going to hold that for a minute. Make sure your bottom edges are aligned, and then this will be okay. And there we are. You see it? There's our stadium fold. Now that wasn't nearly as difficult as it kind of looked like it was it? All right, so now the next thing is we can decorate these little waves, each wave, and I pre-made my balloons. I've cut 6 balloons in different colors from the same designer series paper. I got to get some hand sanitizer here to get rid of the glue on my fingers. Here's my paper towel. Things I usually have handy on my work area is paper towel and baby wipes or Kleenex or something else. Don't like sticky fingers, and I still have glue on my fingers. Oh well. Okay. So I cut these with the smallest die from Balloon Festoon. That's the stamp set I'm using. This is the stamp set. Fun set. And these are the dies, which are awesome dies. Now, for this particular card, I only used the 2 smallest ones. I want to figure out how to play with this larger one and make a fun shaped card with that, but I haven't tried it yet. It does come with these additional dies in different sizes that make the little highlight for your balloon. So I have cut some of those just out of regular basic white cardstock. I don't know, you might see a little shimmer. I don't know if you can or not. I did wipe it with some Winkle, but we're going to add these down here along our waves. And again, we can put it any place, but if I were to put it like tilted like this, and I close my card, it's going to be sticking out. So when you get to the ones that are close to the edge, make sure that your balloon isn't, or whatever you use, isn't sticking out the side of your card, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and put these on with dimensionals. So I'm going to use a couple of these little tiny ones on each of the waves. I may just adhere them. I think I adhered them directly near the top. And you also want to make sure that the bottom of whatever you're adhering stays above this crease in the middle of your wave, okay? So I'm going to stick it about there, and we're going to close and just make sure it's not sticking out, and it's not. And this might be easier if I started at the top, I think, because now it's harder to see the next balloon. So we will go to the top, and here again, I have to make sure that I don't stick this out the side of my card. So I'm going to tip this one inward a bit, and I'm figuring out where I want it before I put it down, just to kind of figure out where I should put my dimensionals. Now there are so many ideas of what you could put on this wave. Think about butterflies, or maybe you have a favorite sport that somebody you're going to give it to. Maybe they love, I don't know, basketball or something. You could put sports items on here. Now I have to check this because I think I got it a little bit low. Talking and crafting are not my strong suits. My brain kind of works best at one thing at a time. And talking and gluing things down is two things. Okay, and this one, there, we're just gonna pop it up a little bit. All right, let's get the rest of these on here. And I'm gonna stick this one out that way a little bit. So I could put the dimensionals on the back of the balloon, but then if you do that, make sure you don't get them so they're going to come above the edge, because then you won't be able to open it. It will all stick down. Okay. Here, if I just put them right along the top edge, this will be good. I'm going to kind of put this one up straight, up and down, I think. Little tilted. There we go. And my next one, oh, how about right about there? And we're getting there. And one more. I think he should go this way. Okay. Voila. Our stadium wave is finished. Now that was much easier than I bet you thought it was, right? And I have pre-made a little sentiment. It just says, let's celebrate. And I'm going to stick that down here in the lower corner. You can put sentiment. I could also put a sentiment up here. I chose not to, but you certainly could put something up there. But now I'm going to show you how to make the belly band. So I have my belly band, which is 10 inches by 1.25 inches. And I decided, you know, we need something on the front of the belly band where we lap it over. I feel like I got some glue or something on here. What is that spot? It's not on the paper. Yeah, it came off. So I'm going to make this with the balloons, just like I did before. And I already have my balloon bouquet made, but it looked a little stark on a plain background. So we're going to add a little bit of confetti quickly here. And I am using, I have Flirty Flamingo, Pool Party, and Daffodil Delight. And these colors just come right out of the designer series paper. I did not come up with them. And we're just going to kind of randomly put some confetti on here in different colors. Yeah, I should have brought my cleaner. And let's go ahead and add these other colors quickly. Pool Party. A little bit. Certain parts of this are never going to show because it's going to be covered by balloons. Much of it. Clean that. And we'll just add a little Flirty Flamingo. I love these little curly cues. I want to get more of the curly cues. And I think I need a little pink right there. All right. That looks pretty random, right? I was just going for random. And we will go ahead and put this on our basic black. These are die cut with the Nested Essentials dies. And I use the two middle ones, the second largest and the second smallest for those. So now let's go ahead. And because this is thicker, I want to make sure that I don't pinch this too tight. I am going to take my bone folder and just run it along the side of the card and kind of bend that first. Okay. And then what I probably will do is just run, in fact, I do have my Simply Score tool here. Let's just do it right. So that was right along the card. So I'm just going to make it about one line to the right of that on this side. Can you see this? And one line to the left of it on the other side. You can just bend it as you want. You don't really need to score it. I just think it's easier to score it because you get a little bit crisper bend and a little bit more controlled. So there we go. It may not be the exact width of the card. That's fine. Now we can just pull it in. So you don't want it tight because you need to be able to move it. If you get it too tight, it's not going to be easy to slide. So make sure you can slide it. And we'll add a little adhesive right along this edge on this one and this edge on the other one. And that way when I close it, being careful to line the edges up and making sure I don't get it too tight. How many have made belly bands and had them so tight you couldn't get them on and off? I think most of us have. Pull it out here so I can give it a good press. Just in case I try to stay away from the edge, but I don't want it to goosh out and get on here and then have it stuck to it. Okay, so let's put that back on there. Hopefully I can get it back on. Yep, that's good. And then we will just adhere this to our belly band, and I am going to adhere it so the points are halfway through. And yeah, you're right. I will use dimensionals. You knew that was coming, right? Make sure I cover them up. I didn't get them too far apart. I was totally eyeballing it. Okay, and my balloons are done. So we can now just adhere these balloons to the front. And I am going to put dimensionals behind the big balloon. I attached each of these balloons to the big one with a dimensional. And I think the 4 will be fine because the other ones are going to be way out here and we would have to put a fair number of dimensionals. Okay, that's a pretty good spot. And I also have my sentiment completed, so we're going to put that across here. Again, we will use dimensionals. And I think I'm just going to put them right on this piece. Now, So the other difference between the first card and this one is I ran out of white baker's twine. So I want that a little bit loose. There we go. I had to use black. So I don't know. I had no choice because I did not have any more white. So how does it compare between white and black? We still got to add our gems. Okay, get in there. There we go. I thought we, okay, this has got to go in on top. White strings, black strings. I don't think it really matters. I think I prefer the white ones, but since I had no choice, okay. But we're going to add some gems to our balloons, and I just kind of wanted to, I added them right on one of these little highlight things, just kind of randomly. Oops. Didn't really matter where you put them. Now this one likes to go off the bottom. The other one likes to go on the top. Did I put gems on the inside of this one? I did not. Yes, I did. I put a few down here on the Celebrate. So we will go ahead and do that. And I thought I'd do one more thing to this card, which if you look at, when you get the tutorial off the blog, I did not do this for the blog card because I figured I could always do it later. But as I was putting the post together, it seemed like it would be a good idea to have a place to sign the card and maybe write a message. So we're going to put a piece of white on the back, and rather than just leave it plain, I am going to stamp some balloons on there. And I made us a mask. So I'm going to stamp the center balloon first. And let's just use our same colors. So I'm going to put Flirty Flamingo here in the middle. And what I probably really should have is my Pearson, Stampin' Pearson. Just to give it a little cushion to stamp on. You get a, with the photopolymer stamps, you just kind of get a little bit better image. So let's put that one there. Clean him off. And now I have a mask that I made, which fits over this balloon. Now, I did not die cut this, I fussy cut this because you kind of want to cut it. So I don't know if you can see, but there's a smidge of the Flirty Flamingo showing when I lay that on there. So the reason, if you leave that white gap that you will get when you die cut it, after stamping, then you will have a gap between here, and it won't look like the one balloon is behind the other one, which is what you're doing. So, and now you do have to press pretty good because you want to, and the nice thing with photopolymers, you can see where the ink's gone. You want to make sure you don't have much of a white line there. I got a little bit of a one, but it's not too bad. Let's see if we can do better with the other one. I'm going to use yellow on the other side. So I'm going to put this mask and I'm going to place it so that I can just see a little hair of the Flirty Flamingo. And we're going to stamp our Daffodil Delight down here. And again, I'm going to push this till I can see the ink goes right up to that mask. And that's a little bit better. Not as much white. So the last thing, let's add some strings to our balloons. And this is another stamp in the stamp set. Oh, that was not what I meant to do. Oh well. We'll find another way to fix that. I moved it. But you get the idea, I think. And let's just go ahead. I will probably take a piece of designer series paper and put it right across there. But we can add that to the back, right? And then our card is done. I think it would be nice to have that. Yeah, this one has to come up from the bottom. It doesn't want to go over the fold in the top. Is that not the strangest thing? The other one doesn't want to go over the bottom. And this one doesn't want to go over the top. I don't understand it. It's weird. Just plain weird. But let's just lay them side by side. They should look exactly the same. And this one I have to remember wants to come over from the top. There we go. I think they look pretty much the same except black strings and white strings. The envelopes were decorated with a piece of the striped designer paper. Love that striped designer paper. And there we go. You have a Stadium Wave Fun Fold. Wasn't that good? Not that hard, right? Let me flip my camera back. All right. I hope it made sense. If not, go watch Dawn Griffiths from 2023. Hers was really good. So I hope you give it a try. Let me know what you think. You think it's a fun fold? I had never seen it before. Have you seen it before? It sounds like it's obviously been out there a while, but new to me. So let's wrap this up. Have a great day. If you feel like you learned something, give me a thumbs up. And until next week, let me see, next week is actually, this is the 25th. No, there will not be a video next week. Next week is the 4th of July. And so I'm kind of taking it a little easy. I have some guests coming for the 4th. Actually, the 3rd, we have the fireworks here on our lake on July 3rd. So I'm looking forward to getting together with a friend that's coming for a few days. And I'm not doing a video next week. There'll be a few things on the blog, a couple things still on the blog. One of them I think you're going to really like. It's that sampler that you maybe can see behind me. That will be on my blog on July 3rd, 2nd. So we are going to be celebrating the 4th next week on my blog and everywhere else. Have a good one. We will see you in 2 weeks. God bless. Take care. Bye-bye.